Hi, everybody. Good morning, wherever you're watching me on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on X, yes, on Instagram. Welcome to Basement Chronicles this morning. Let me just go live on Instagram and say good morning to everybody. I've been away for a bit and we're going to talk about that. Just a lot has been happening, I want to tell you about, but I don't know if you saw the promo for what I want to talk about this morning. It's about self love and it's about this Diddy situation. Did you guys see this video? Did you guys see this video with this man stomping on? This is a 2016 video, just for context. Those people who didn't see it, welcome wherever you're watching me. I just need to know that you can hear me. I'm using this mic this morning. It's supposed to be better, and I did check it before, but let me know in the comments if you can hear me. I would so appreciate that. So, thank you also to those who are watching in Edmonton, Alberta. Thank you for being here as well. For context, last week, this video surfaced from 2016 of Diddy, formerly Puff Daddy from my day, formerly Diddy, whatever, P. Diddy, now Diddy. And it showed and proved what his ex girlfriend from the 2016 time had been saying, that she was a victim of domestic violence at his hands and sexual violence as well. And in this video, you see Diddy in a towel coming out into the hotel lobby, preventing her from leaving. She's barefoot. He is in a towel. He swipes at her. He hits her. He knocks her down. He stomps on her. He kicks her twice. Then he drags her like a piece of meat back into the lobby. At some other point in the video, you see him sitting down, you see him shoving her, and you see him literally throwing something. They say that it's a vase that he threw at her. It was triggering for so many reasons that I want to talk about this morning. Did you see the video? What do you think of it? Let me know. Let me make sure that every yeah, okay. There is video on Instagram, so that's good. And here's what happened for me. So I think this came out perhaps on the Friday. So on Saturday morning, we went on a road trip, or was it Friday or Saturday, whatever, on the weekend, okay, with my entire family. And I stopped to get coffee, stopped to get an Americano, my favorite coffee, at a popular, I won't say, but if you're in Canada, you probably know where I'm talking about. Popular, most popular coffee chain in Canada. I stopped at one of their branches to get an Americano. It was very early, before 6 o'clock. Okay. And I walk in, and this guy, and I'm going to say this guy, young guy, mid 20s, white male, he's the attendant behind the counter, and he is starting shouting at another colleague behind the counter. And this is what he says. And if you have kids, sometimes the language can get a bit rough. I'm not going to be cussing or anything on this podcast or on this stream, whatever, but it can get rough. Okay. And he's like, this is the fourth effing time that I've asked you for a caddy. Where is it? This guy, I'm telling you, he's about mid 20s, white male, speaking to an elderly Filipino woman who is his colleague in the store, in the coffee shop. And he says it over and over at the top of his lungs. He's shouting at this woman. And you guys, like when you're on a coffee line for coffee, or you're in your own thoughts. At least I am. I'm not looking around me. I'm just like, I just want to get my coffee. I'm thinking of things. So it took me a minute or two to climb out of my thoughts and to see what was happening. That this man is right there abusing this woman who could be his grandmother. Let's not even go there. She clearly looks like she's an immigrant. She clearly looks like the balance of power definitely is not balanced at all. And we are watching the couple people, some homeless, some people, we are watching this play out before us. And this is in the background of me, in my mind, is what I saw the day before with the P. Diddy video. And I'm like, oh, hell no. And I pulled out my phone and I just started recording him. And I said it loud, oh, hell no. And then I literally stood there recording this man abusing his co-worker in a store that's supposed to have the highest of standards by Canadian standards, right? By that time I started recording, he had stopped the tirade. And so what I got was him stomping through the counters, slamming drawers and so on. Of course, he would not deal with me. I was next on the line, but he purposely went to do something else because he knew that I was recording and he knew that for sure I would have something to say. So who dealt with me was somebody, another attendant who came up and asked, like, is anybody dealing with you? At which point I was like, no one's dealing with me, especially not him, because this is what happened. And I really, it triggered me, and I was literally trembling. I don't know about you, but I have not been around domestic violence situations a lot in my life, or any kind of violence. So to see that play out like that, it was triggering for so many reasons. It's a white male, it's a Filipino woman, it's a male, it's a woman. I had just seen the Diddy video. All of these things about the balance or lack thereof of power, and how if you don't have a voice and people don't think that who people think you are, how it can get very iffy. All of these things came together, and I just literally almost lost it in the store and said, this man needs to get out of here. This man, this is no way to treat a woman. This is no way to treat a fellow colleague. This person could be your mom. And you know what I was going through? In my mind, I was like, this woman probably has family, left her family back home, has, settled in a new country, and you come here to get this kind of abuse from somebody. It's not right. And so, because I spoke up, I got a call from the manager who asked me to send in the video. Hey, Lady G, how are you? Are you still in St. Lucia? Asked me to send in a video of it, and I did. I'm sorry I did not get him when he was really tearing into this woman, but I think, of course, there are cameras that can show exactly what happened. It was demeaning, it was disgusting, it was triggering for me for many reasons that I want to talk about. Why? So, a couple days later, or even a day later, I was speaking to a good friend of mine who's always, hi, Elsa, good morning to you. Always the person to ask me the relevant questions. And she asked me, why was this so triggering? Apart from, yeah, hi, apart from being a woman, being an immigrant, being a minority, apart from experiencing all the things, I do have a personal experience, and I it brought it to the fore, and I'm okay to speak about it now because it is so not my reality. When I was in my 20s, somebody hit me. When I was in my 20s, early 20s, away from home, living away from home, at university, working, whatever, I had a boyfriend who we were supposed to go on and get married. You guys, if it doesn't work, I'll say, thank the Lord. if, no, we were talking about marriage and all of that, right? But here's the thing, this guy had begun to whittle away at my self worth, to tell me stuff like, oh, you're not everybody's cup of tea, but I love you. Like he's the only one who could love me because something was clearly wrong with me. So we were living together at his parents' home, and I was so tired mentally. Has a man ever made that happen? Like, so tired mentally because it was always about, you need to do this right, and you're not good enough, and you need to fix this, and almost they make you feel as if you are nothing, that everything is wrong with you, and by extension everything is right with them. So please, as you come in, please like this video and share it, okay? Something happened. Before I go on to the story, let me tell you what happened. So while I was away traveling to St. Lucia, my homeland, and so on, my account got hacked for some reason. I'm not sure what happened, but I've been suspended from my Facebook account with like 5,000 followers on one page and 3,000 something on the other. And so it's like, I feel a bit helpless, and I don't like feeling helpless. So I'm like, you know what? This is a time to build the audiences in other places that matter as well. And so I want to ask you if you can help me to share this live and, just get the word out there. And please go subscribe on also subscribe on my YouTube channel. I think I have the link. Maybe I should, let me just put the link right here in the chat. So if you go subscribe here, then yeah, there's a YouTube channel. You should be able to see it. And I think I can also put it here on Instagram, but Instagram, it is actually in my bio. Please go subscribe. So every time I go live, you get a notification. Go, so subscribe and enable the notifications with the little bell. So every time I go live, you will get the notification and you don't have to like see it be scrolling, but it's something that you'll come to, because I will keep coming back, and I will keep coming back with value for you and I. Okay. So I was telling you about this guy. Let me just, my nose is running a little bit. Okay. So that's what was happening. All of these months with him, it was like, okay, you're not good enough. And just think of yourself in any kind of abusive situation you've ever been. The first step is always to make you feel less than yourself, to, in a sense, either dehumanize you or make you feel that you are less than you really are. And I'm going somewhere with this. Tag somebody who needs to hear this, or message them privately, say, come and listen to this. This is going to help you today, because we're going to see the plan and the plot and how we get to the point where you accept somebody hitting your person, somebody slapping you, somebody throwing a punch in your face, giving you a black eye, somebody throwing you to the ground, stomping on you, because it starts from dehumanizing you and making you feel less than who you are, to the point where this guy, this terrible guy, thank God this didn't work out. Okay. To the point where when I graduated from university, it was a bit traumatic, because I had left. I was suffering from depression and I had the eating disorder, went off. And so I came back and really did well, to the point where I was valedictorian for my graduating class. This was class of 90, oh my goodness, 98 in Trinidad, the University of the West Indies. And just imagine, at a time when, if it's somebody you love, the shining moment when you stand up, you're announced as the valedictorian, and you're walking up to give your speech, and you're looking out across the crowd of thousands of people at that point. Okay. And you see, you have eyes for only one person, and you see that person get up and he walks out. It was open air, it was in the auditorium, whatever. He walks out of the graduation ceremony. Later on, he says that his back was hurting him. No, it's not no back that was hurting anybody. If these things happen to you, if you're that kind of person who's blazing a trail and your guy or your girl is not there for you, it's jealousy. It's plain and simple. Get the hell out. Get out. These kinds of things demean you and make you feel like you are too much. So many women who I coach are like, yes. So Lady G says on Instagram, this happened to me in my teenage years. Thank you so much for sharing. So many women I coach are like, I'm too much. What are you too much for? It just means that the container is not big enough to take you. Get out. There's somebody for you who will take all of your edges, all of your isms. There's somebody out there for you. Make room in your. I had this friend back in the same university, and she always used to say that, like, make room in your life for the right person to walk in. Get rid of the stuff. Somebody's not right for you, but you are trying to cut yourself into pieces to fit into their little narrow box. No, two things are going to happen. You're going to be miserable, and they're going to despise you for not loving yourself. Get out. And, those experiences, it led finally to the one time that he hit me. And yeah, he did. In his house, we were having an argument, and he hit me. And though I left, because the self-concept and the self-worth was not in place, guess what happened? I came back into the relationship. How many of us do that? You know why we do that? We do that because we think that's what we deserve. If you thought, and when you believe that you deserve better, the thing that is abusive is no longer attractive, and you'll find the strength to leave. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So went back, and we continued talking about marriage. about being together. Can you imagine if this happened before you got married? Can you imagine when ring is on finger and things in place, what you're going to be suffering? That's the same thing that they said about that Diddy video. If that was caught on camera, what happened behind closed doors? What happened when the cameras were not rolling? Every single thing about this guy is disgusting. And I believe it. If we caught that on camera, far less what we did not catch on camera. I'm telling you guys, like when I saw that video, everything just rose up in me again. And then the next day to go to Tim Hortons and see this guy abusing this woman, no, I lost it and I gave it to him right there. I was like, this is wrong. Get rid. This guy needs to go. This is not okay. And the lady afterwards, I have to tell you, she came and she said, thank you. She told me thank you. It was a soft-spoken lady trying to control the situation, embarrassed as whatever, just this guy tearing into her. This is the fourth time I've asked you for the effing caddy and going on and on. I could not believe my eyes. But anyway, I digress. And so we went to St. Lucia, and this is where I want to tell you about the when you value yourself and when you have a identity. And don't get discouraged if you are in an abusive situation and you're like, okay, what is she talking about? How do I even get out? I am not her. Listen, just bear with me. Do not despair. There's a way out. Other people who've gone through worse have come out of abusive situations. You too can. Let's try to kind of chart some kind of progress this morning. And so we began continuing to talk about marriage, about being together, and all of that. Okay. Went to St. Lucia because he was going to meet my parents, I think, for the second time or whatever. This is after I'd graduated, after the back hurting situation, I was still with him. Okay. And here's what happened. In my parents' house, some incident happened. And in my parents' house, I think the night after we came, this guy tried to hit me again. And at that point, listen, if somebody can do that to you in your parents' home, okay, that's a bigger sign, because you have no sense of, I have brothers, although they were younger at the time. I have a father. Listen, you felt comfortable trying to do it in my parents' home. The next day I told my mother, and anybody who knows my mother knows that that's a no. These things are, and I'll tell you about how we got there. So my mom just simply said to him, no, this is not right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you on the next plane to Trinidad. Yeah. No, in retrospect, it's funny. In retrospect, it's really funny. You came down for a lovely vacation with your so-called fiance. It wasn't, we hadn't gotten engaged when we were talking about it. This was like the step to meet the parents and meet the family and then the engagement, whatever. And the next day you on a plane. The next day you on a plane to Trinidad. My mom said, no, I'm sorry. No, this is not acceptable. No, you don't try to hit our daughter. My father was just very quiet and very deadly. So I was like, you know what? Get this guy out before something happens, right? Yeah, mommy, don't play. Put him on a plane. Back to Trinidad. But here's the thing, the defining moment for me. And, my mom spoke to me about, no, that's not what, we didn't bring you up. You did not see this in your home. You cannot accept it. But what really cemented the image in my head of who you are means you don't take certain things is this next one. And bear with me as I tell it to you in my St. Lucian way, how my auntie, I have a couple aunts. They're very vivid in my mind. They've added to who I am. I sound like them. Just all the things. So this auntie, she knew that I was coming up to St. Lucia with my boyfriend, and I was going to meet the family and whatever. I met her in town the morning we dropped him at the airport and said, goodbye, boy, bye, boy, bye. Okay? Literally, my mother said that before Beyonce. So I meet my aunt in town with her husband, and she's like, Ishmael is a term in St. Lucia that means my child. It's just a term of endearment. Ishmael, where is he? We're coming down to see him, whatever. And I told my aunt the story right there. So my aunt is really funny and really dramatic. And this is what she said. My aunt had her bag on her shoulder. And I want to dramatize it for you because it is that I have in my mind that makes me have the self identity that I have today. My aunt put her bag, she adjusted the bag on her shoulder. And she's like, let me tell you something. We did not bring you up and go through all of that for you to take a lash from a man or something like that. Let me tell you something, Lisa. That's how she said it. I'm never going to forget that. It meant to me what I'm saying to you now. It's not a matter of what people give you or want to give you. It's a matter of who you are and who you think you are. My overriding point of view, foundation, where those things are concerned is this. And I'm not going to say it, you're going to help me. You're going to say it in the quiet of wherever you are. There might be kids listening. I am not a toilet bowl. I am not a toilet bowl. I don't take SHIT. See what I said? Where is the one place you know that takes crap, that is supposed to take SHIT? Where is the one place you know that's supposed to take the garbage? It's the toilet bowl. Do you, who was well brought up, or even if you were not well brought up, you, who's a human being, with likes and dislikes, with strengths and weaknesses, no matter what they say, you, with all of your talents and all what you've done and all what you have been through, are you a toilet bowl? If the answer to that question is no, there are certain things that you are not allowed in your person to take, no matter what somebody says. I had a conversation with a young man yesterday who's kind of looking for a job and so on. And it goes back to the same thing of who do you think you are? And I always come back not to who I think I am, but to who the person who made me says I am. Because the truth is that whatever car you are driving now, the manual that you are using to learn, or maybe going online to find out the features of the car and how it works. If you're driving a BMW, you are not going down the road to the Hyundai dealership to find out how to maneuver and to deal with and to handle your BMW. You are that BMW no matter what anybody says. And I know the person who perhaps has been beaten down, emotionally abused, told over and over again that you are not enough. I know you're hearing me and my words sound alien to you, but it's not me who said it. And you cannot afford to listen to the person who you are making a God. Because if you're listening to what they said you are, they are your God. They made you. Why don't we go to the real person who made you, your creator? What did he say about you? That's where you start. That's what makes us not go back into abusive situations. That is what makes us, in the first instance, when you see injustice and when you see abuse, stand up and say, no, this is not right. Because the self concept, the self worth of what you are allowing yourself to take will not allow you to do certain things and be certain things and take certain things from people. It's not a matter of what people are giving. It's a matter of what you think you can take or not take. And that comes from a sense of knowing who you are, knowing who God said you are. I always say, start there. You are in an abusive situation and you can't get out. Maybe he's checking your phone. Maybe he's controlling this and that. You know what he cannot control? Your mind. Right now. There's a phrase that I used to like. The mouse dreams dreams that will frighten the cat. When the mouse's self-concept gets big enough, it finds a way to outsmart the cat. I don't even know if that's a good analogy, but I know it happens in real life with human beings. That when you're under somebody and when somebody's abusing you, at the point at which you get out is the point at which you decide, I am no longer built for this. I'm no longer able to take this. When that happens, things change. I will never forget when I came from Trinidad studying, I had been on the artist scene, living in Trinidad for a while. I sounded strange to St. Lucians. And even dressed differently, as like in the bell bottom pants, very, very bohemian at that point. And I was actually living with my grandparents in the countryside because my parents were renovating our home. And like, I preferred the countryside and I still do. And I won't forget like having to come down to Castries, the capital, and there was just this guy on the road. Every time that I left the house, he would follow me, taunting me, trying to laugh at my clothes, and just because he found me strange. I said nothing for maybe months. One day, I decided, this is after Trinidad and after Boy went back, and this is, I've come home. So I'm a little older and making sense of things and having a better sense of who I am. When I realized in all, I'll come back to the story. But what happened was when I realized that there was a pattern of the kinds of guys that I was dating, the kinds of broken people, right? Nobody hit me there before or after that, right? My aunt set me straight, that concept in my head, but they were still broken people. When I realized that, I was like, I am the common denominator. That's not to say that I'm less, but I just needed to look at the situation. If all of these things are, and I'm dating the same kind of man, just a different name, I'm the common denominator. When I change, the kind of man that I attract is going to change. How does that happen? Two ways. I think the point at which things changed for me was when I gave my life to Christ. That identity is way different from what the world says I am, way different from what I say I am. That identity is way more valuable and sustaining. So I want to encourage you to get into the Word of God and find out what He says about you. That's the first one. The second thing was very practical. I read the books. One of them was Acts of Faith by Ian Levinzant. I'll never forget that. I love that book. That was a book for broken hearts back in the day. Oh my goodness, you guys, go look at July 11th. July 11th changed my life. That day, the July 11th entry in Acts of Faith changed my life. Okay. Anyway, I began to read those books and I bought a book that was very seminal for me, The Power of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Braden, or I think that's his name. And I began to do that work, reading the books, practicing what they said, because I realized if I needed to attract a certain kind of man, I needed to be a certain kind of woman. And I'm not knocking anybody. I cannot afford to knock anybody because I've been there. I'm just the power of a personal testimony. This is what's happening. So when you ask the question, I want to attract a different person. I want to be able to be that person who attracts somebody who loves me and likes me for who I am. I don't have to cut myself into pieces. You start the work of the self-worth and the self-identity of the God identity. That's where it begins. That's where it begins. Now I forgot, I was somewhere in my story. I forgot the part in my story where I was before I did that little segue into self-esteem and knowing who I am and what happened. But even if I don't remember it, you guys, what time is it? Where am I? What's our time? I'm looking at our time. It's 29 minutes. We'll continue tomorrow. I'm going to be on tomorrow. Like basically, like truthfully, the fact is I don't like people controlling my stuff. And for me, it's like, okay, I've heard this happen to people on Facebook where, things get canceled. Somebody hacked in and so my account has been suspended. I don't like this feeling. I like to be in control of my stuff. And so I'm just like going to go all out on social media, get my numbers back up and just drive people to the places where I can control it. Okay? That's the pilot in me. That's the pilot in me. So the man who taunted you as I walked down, right? Okay, thank you, Elsa. Okay, one day, this is back to the story about the man who was taunting me. One day, I decided I had enough. This man who I thought was so big and so menacing in my mind, I'm 5'9", and I think I was already 5'9" at that time, grown adult, 20 something. I turned around and I walked on him and I began to talk to him and began to get in his face. Do you know what happened? Big man who had the big voice every morning taunting me. The minute I turned around and I began to really get into it with him that day, the man began to retreat. I cannot fight. I don't know that I do weights or whatever, but I've never really been in a fight or whatever. But I'm pretty sure I could have taken that one down. I don't even know how. But I'm pretty sure with how I was feeling about the fact that you've given me something that I cannot accept anymore, I am pretty sure we would have fought. He never bothered me again. He never bothered me again. And I'm not advocating for going into like a domestic violence situation, because I'm pretty sure if Cassie had tried to take on that man there, Diddy, that he would have hit her even worse. But if you cannot fight physically, you can fight with your mind and get out of the situation. At some point, you will realize, well, if you do the work of every single day meditating on who God says you are and figuring out what it means. If I am a diamond, if I'm not a toilet bowl, then this thing, that the crap that you want to give cannot enter. Not that it should not, it cannot. Because many times there have been people who I love dearly who want to give crap. And for me, what stops me is that even though I love you, who I am intrinsically deep within, when nobody is watching, it cannot take this. It cannot. And it is at that level, I feel like change, it becomes a groundswell within you that then begins to invade, infect, influence all of your life. I know the placards and the women's movements are very important for the collective growth. Sometimes what is missing is the most important element, which is to get quiet with your own self and do the hard work of becoming the person that God says you are, of raising that self-esteem bit by bit, sentence by sentence, thought by thought, until it becomes there's a moving army within you that you can learn to fight back against all of the incursions in our person, including domestic violence. It's not easy to get out of these situations. So if you are not in one, do everything in your power to stay out of it. And if you are, do everything in your power to get the hell out, because it's not going to end well for you. There is just so much that you can do to hide the scars and to hide the emotional and sexual and domestic abuse, domestic violence abuse. And to think that this woman stayed with this guy from 2008, I think, like for so long. She stayed until 2018, some egregious number of years of abuse. And every time you stay, every time you take it, every time you accept it, unfortunately, the self-esteem wears down worse. That's why at some point, it's only the woman who can get herself out of it. Because you'll try, she'll go right back. You try to get her out of. Oh, I've seen men as well. I have seen men go back to abusive situations. And I understand that nothing we do, except perhaps from the background, but it is that person to see himself differently, to see himself as king, to see himself as a vessel that is worthy of good and not bad. But I've been thinking about it, and I feel it's a whole set of things. It's the music we listen to, it's the movies we look at, it is the books we read, it's the people we follow. A lot of women, like I remember once I had a client who we were, talking about and helping her along in relationships and, getting a partner that she wanted. And everything she listened to on social media was about how to tell a man who's cheating, how to come out of a bad relationship, how to tell if you, everything was about the suspicion and the bad in relationships. So that's what she was attracting. They always had a side chick. They always, that's what she was attracting. So when we began to do that work, unfortunately, we didn't get to that point. But she did get some ways to realizing that it's a matter of going after what you want. And part of that is surrounding yourself with the things, the people, the books, the podcasts, the things that will help you to see yourself a certain way as opposed to other ways. You have to do the substitution. Anyway, you guys, like as you can see, last week was pretty seminal for me and pretty. I'm taking a breath, being grateful that I didn't end up staying in an abusive relationship, and recognizing, even though there are people who are currently in abusive relationships, that there is hope, that if you start that work of getting help, working on yourself bit by bit, listen, there's so much free stuff on the internet. You can follow me. Go look at Basement Chronicles. Read the Bible. Find out who God says you are. Do that work. Don't stay in a situation that's untenable, that is eroding you. Get out, because the thing is that instead of holding on to a thing that's rotten and is not going anywhere, you want to make room in your life for the right person to walk in, don't you? You want to make room in your life. You it's just not worth it to be in an abusive relationship. Whatever it is, an abusive friendship, an abusive romantic relationship, all the things. No, get out. Get out is my advice. Anyway, you guys, I feel like I've given so much this morning. Oh my goodness, I feel it. Cell by cell, yes, Lisa's preschool. The man who taught to you. Oh my goodness. All right, I think I know what you mean, Lady G1Z4. All right, folks, I'll see you tomorrow, same time. So please share this live. Can I ask you to like it right now? Put a like on it if it gave you some value. And go subscribe to Basement Chronicles on YouTube, because I'll be directing a lot of my attention there, all the lives and everything, and just coming off all of these places. Sometimes constraint gives you better results, like all the time, frankly. Constraint, as in focusing on one thing as opposed to spreading yourself too thin, it really does give you better results. Okay, everybody, see you tomorrow, same time on Basement Chronicles Live. And don't forget that you are who God says you are. Everything else is a lie, literally.